Okay, I need a motion to adjourn to closed session.
So moved.
Yeah.
Dr. Chris motioned.
Second.
Oh, go ahead.
So the Chris Steve rotation is what we're looking at.
Perfect.
All right. All those in sorry. I need Chris.
Aye.
Jennifer.
She's not here.
Okay. Steve.
Aye.
Michael.
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. Motion carries 401. We'll see you all in closed session. Convene to open session.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Chris,
Aye.
Jennifer,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Michael.
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. Motion carries 500. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. You can turn your mics off, but we're just going to go. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Chris,
Aye.
Jennifer,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Michael.
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. Motion carries 500. Actions taken in closed session. We gave staff direction regarding MOUs with CSEA. Recognition none. In terms of individuals designed to address the board, I'm going to lump that in with, actually, I'm going to cover that under oral and written communications, because we got some email communications. Those will be covered under that. Bargaining unit presentations. Do we have anybody from STA on the line?
Jennifer's there.
I saw Jennifer, you're there.
Yes. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Good evening, board members. As we work through this trying, unprecedented, and ever-changing pandemic climate, we appreciate the continued collaboration with you and other stakeholders as we work through the details to find the best solution to meet the needs of our educational community in as safe a way as possible. STA would like to thank you for offering us a seat at the table. The plan you will hear about tonight was chosen by a large percentage of the district's teachers, but not all are comfortable with it. As you consider this and any hybrid model, please consider science and safety, as well as the excess of additional duties being asked of teachers and the additional risks they will be taking as the frontline workers of this pandemic. Thank you for asking the hard questions as details were fleshed out in the planning process. We know that no plan will be ideal, but through continued conversations, we hope to come to the plan that will be the best possible fit for our community and will keep everyone as safe as possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Do we have anyone from CSEA?
I think so.
Okay. So board member comments. I'm just going to go in the same order I've been going with everyone because it's easier for me to keep track that way. Chris, any comments?
Nope. Thanks.
Okay. Jennifer?
No, thank you.
Steve?
None.
Okay. Michael?
No comment.
Okay. I have no comments either. Thank you very much. Oral and written communications. The board members received several emails from concerned parents and teachers. Thank you very much, everybody, for the emails. With board permission, we're going to direct staff to look through the ideas presented in the emails and see if any of them are appropriate to bring forward for potential highlights or fixes or addressing any issues in our current in what's going to be presented as our current plan for possible revisions down the road. And closing loops, getting back to those that chose to reach out to us. So thank you very much for that. But Eric and Jennifer and folks will be looking through them and looking to incorporate any ideas that seem to bring improvements.
Will do.
Thank you. Let's go straight into the superintendent report.
I'll hold until the reopening plan.
Okay. Wow, that's the fastest superintendent report I've
I
ever
know.
had.
I know.
Okay, Teresa. Oh, actually, it says Spreckels. I'm sorry. I'm going to go. I'm going to go. I'm going out of order. But Teresa, I called you first, so there you go. You're muted, Teresa. You're muted.
I fixed my audio, but not my voice. Hi, everybody. Well, it's summertime, but we're all working hard, like Jennifer mentioned, and I think one of the things that's beautiful about our district is how we do communicate and collaborate with each other, and I know that that's what we're doing right now. I have had a couple of leadership meetings that started with a small group of teachers, but it's growing because everyone's welcome, and we're just talking through all the possibilities and scenarios and getting advice from all the grade levels and ideas. And I will continue to do that to keep the teachers and staff in the loop and listen to their concerns and ideas. So we can move forward in the safest, best way we can for our staff and for our kids.
Thank you very much. Kate, you're up.
Not much to update. We're just working on schedules, trying to figure out a variety of schedules to work just in case of all case scenarios. But not much to say right now. Just looking to see how we can move forward.
Thank you very much. And do we have anyone from SUEF or PTO? I'm looking at you, Michael.
No.
Okay, thank you. Well, let's go to the fund balance report. And
So-
do you have a screen you can share for that?
Right, you can share your screen.
Yeah, it's coming.
Okay.
Can you see it?
Not yet.
Not yet.
How about now?
It's coming up. It's loading. Yes.
There you go.
So I'm just going to focus on one line item. I'm kind of circling my cursor around it. You see this deficit of $731,000. That represents a shortfall in cash because June we are experiencing the first of the deferrals. As this captures all expenditure through the end of the year. So fortunately, again, we're leaning on that healthy reserve to get through that shortfall. And we'll be presenting a budget revision to you in the next 45 days to align our projected revenues to the governor's plan that was just adopted a few weeks ago, or not even a few weeks, a week or so ago.
Does anybody have questions regarding this item? Okay, it's hard for me to see everybody because I'm not on gallery view. So if you do have questions, just go ahead and start speaking.
I'm tracking faces.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we'll move on. Thank you. That's the fund balance report that we usually love, but it is the reality of where we are. Facilities?
So on facilities, we are focusing entirely on summer cleaning and preparing all the PPE that we need to start bringing folks back. And I want to just thank all the custodial and maintenance staff for all their time and effort. They've really stepped up to sort of shift their work to prepare for this unknown exercise we're about to endeavor upon in August.
Class configurations?
Would you like to share the screen again, or Eric, do you want to sort of talk about there's really not much changes in this and what our plan is for the end of the month?
Yes, we're actually pretty healthy at all grade levels. When we next meet, hopefully we will have a model or a scenario that will break the numbers into cohorts. And that will probably be the next round of class configurations you see. Probably instead of seeing 4 boxes, you'll see perhaps 6 or 8. So overall, our enrollment's fine. It's healthy. And we're ready to start school one way or the other.
Okay. Does anybody have
And one of the things that we've been tracking sort of closely is just any parents unenrolling.
Okay.
As they've already made some kind of decision, and we have not seen that outside of something we anticipated earlier in the spring.
Right.
Yeah, sorry, Steve's got a question, yes.
So of the pending, there isn't, well, it's only for kinder.
Kinder and seventh.
Are we still waiting on those folks to be released?
No, actually, the kinders were released. So the next round, we approved a handful last week. So right now there should be like 84, 85. We're going to sit back and see. That's about 21 per class. So right now we're going to kind of see how the next few weeks play out. But we have a few more to add. Yes.
Because we want to run 4 sections of kinder,
right? Right. No, the kids are there, fortunately.
All right. Thank you.
Great. Elementary and secondary school emergency relief fund assurance.
This is the information only of the assurances that we certified for the first round of some of the CARES Act funding. And this money is to support the PPE and infrastructure improvements that we're doing to create that safe environment in those guidelines.
Thank you. Any questions?
No.
Hearing none, let's go on to school reopening plan. So what we'll do is we'll bring it forward to a motion, and then we'll have the discussion presentation. I need a motion to approve the school reopening plan.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Eric?
Yeah, so I share my screen. Can somebody give me a shout out if they can see it?
Not yet.
Just protocol, save questions to after the presentation?
Yes.
Yes,
Can we
please.
hold questions to the end, please? Thank you.
Eric, I don't see it yet.
I don't see it either.
Okay. Hopefully give it time. Let me try again. Getting closer.
Worst comes to worst, Veronica, if you still have control of it, you can present and just go with the slides as Eric goes.
Give me 1 second. I think I have it going. It's easier for me to follow here.
Yeah, fair enough. I guess.
Can anybody see it yet?
Nope.
Not yet.
Yeah. Oh, it's coming.
Oh,
Slowly, it's coming.
Got it.
got it.
Yay. Okay. Thank you, Travis, for the tutorial on that last time. So tonight we're going to share different scenarios for starting the year. I like to first kind of just state the obvious. This reopening schools is a very difficult and polarizing process. I want to thank the community, though, and all the teachers and staff. Although there are definitely diverse thoughts about how we should do this, all ideas have been presented very respectfully, and we are our ears are open, and we realize there are some parents and staff that would like to start school tomorrow with everybody, and we realize on the other side of that spectrum, there are people that do not want to return for other reasons. So again, everybody is being heard, and your concerns are definitely valid. I'd like to thank the reopening committee. We've met 3 or 4 times over the last month. It's about 28 members of our community. We have teachers classified. We have administration. We have parents at both sites and all 3 parent groups represented. We have 2 board members. We actually recruited the director of the Salinas Y, who is willing to partner with us to provide childcare. So it's a pretty diverse group. We've met again 3 times. We did a rehearsal of this presentation yesterday, so they've seen it, and we think that we're presenting scenarios that have been vetted pretty carefully. And without further ado, there's a lot of different guidelines out there, and the one visual that I've liked that made most sense for me is from the California School Boards Association. It's this reopening pyramid, and I think the visual speaks for itself. The foundational level that holds up everything is health and safety concerns, followed by funding and resources, which is tied to our budget, making sure that we have quality programs in place. And then at the very top, which is key, is flexibility. More than likely, we'll be going in and out of scenarios throughout the year based on COVID rates. So again, our plans have to be able to, within 24 hours, flip-flop. The rest of the presentation is going to kind of follow the 4 priorities. And these are our commitments for reopening school. First, And there was some confusion. At first, we thought we had to get our plan formally approved by the health department. That's not correct. Well, that's changed. They are willing to review it, but it really is a local decision, which means the school board and our community make that decision based on, obviously, a few factors. Health and safety orders, both California and the county. The only way schools can be unilaterally shut down would be if the California governor or the health officer of Monterey issues an executive order. These plans are built on a set of guidelines from the CDE, the California School Board Association, and the Department of Public Health. And one of the main points that I made to the parents in my last email is that these plans are fluid because the guidelines they keep coming. Word has it CDC is going to come out with new guidelines within a week. The Public Health Department's supposed to revise theirs. So these plans will be continuously looked at, revised, and again, view them as scenarios based on what we know currently. Number two, the budget bill had trailer language on it. That was pretty clear. Well, at least indicated the legislature and the governor's intent, which was to offer an in-person reopening option to the greatest extent possible. And that greatest extent possible is very gray language. But basically by September 1st, with the current orders, we're supposed to have a plan that brings back as many kids as possible safely. We can offer an online only option for compromised kids, and we are presenting that tonight. But again, we have to have an in-person option scenario. Make sure we provide PPE. That is being taken care of. We have an order for the first 60 days coming. Make sure that we're abiding by the best guidelines for cleaning of facilities. Make sure we have protocols in place based on the spread of COVID. What happens if we have a positive case? What happens if there's a cluster? All of those scenarios will lead to certain actions. And then number 6, provide quality models of instruction, but also give parents options. So we are presenting 2 tonight. Again, people feel differently about reopening, so we want to have at least 2 options for families and their circumstances. So my goal tonight with the board is to share the plan, but also by the end, hopefully get approval to start building the detail into it. We need direction. We have about a month to make this work. Both the safety and health considerations we'd like to get approved or modified tonight, and also the 2 instructional scenarios. I shared this a while back, but this kind of like illustrates the challenge. There's a lot of things we need to do before the first student enters the door at either site. We need to make sure that we have all the protocols in place, that we have the proper PPE, that we have hand washing stations, that we have made arrangements for compromised students and staff. Quite a few things before we start. So this presentation it's chronological in the sense that steps you would take before school starts, and then kind of like the average day of a student. First of all, we're committed to making sure we communicate transparently with all groups and with all community. Ongoing emails to parents, survey questions, getting the latest feedback, because that feedback will change depending on the COVID situation, and to continue meeting with that reopening committee. Before anybody comes back, we're going to require training. The first wave of that has already started. The district office is returning tomorrow. So those of us that work in the district office have watched a series of COVID-related videos, read articles. We have some mandated videos we have to watch for another organization. So all those things need to happen before we actually step on the site. We will also do the same thing. The same thing will happen with other staff and teachers starting on August 1st. In addition, part of this training will involve our students, obviously, and that will be ongoing. The best way to wash hands, different, what does social distancing mean? What's the safest way to enter and exit a classroom? Things like that. So first kid gets on the bus the first day, what's transportation going to look like? Per state guidelines, transportation is actually one of the biggest obstacles because the guidelines are pretty strict. Students can sit on every other one per seat, one per row, every other seat, which basically reduces a bus's capacity to about 25%. We're going to plan to pick kids up at their homes to avoid those high dense, group gatherings. Based on this model, we did a little survey, and to the right there, out of 525 responses, about 30% of our parents still plan to have their child ride the bus. That number, and mixed with the 25% capacity, is going to cause some obstacles. So what we are proposing is to meet our legal obligation to bring kids. If we offer transportation, we have to be able to bring kids to school, not necessarily back home. And we know this is not ideal, but it's the only way we can bring all the kids that need to ride the bus to school and also clean the bus in between cohorts. So the recommendation is to provide transportation in the AM cohort and the PM cohort, but not home. We could also maximize, hopefully, the number of kids by having siblings sit together on a given row. We gathered that information about a week ago, and right now we're trying to disaggregate it to kind of come up with the routes. And it's going to be tough, but we're making progress. Kids enter school, what's going to be different? Last few years, we've reduced it to one opening for other reasons. Now we're flipping that. Now we're going to try to maximize points of entry and exit to reduce the high density areas. All students that enter per the guidelines will have their temperature checked. Students that have an elevated temperature or showing signs of COVID would be brought to an isolation area. That's one of the conditions as well. And we will be limiting, unfortunately, the number of classroom volunteers and visitors to only those who are essential for our programs. Physical distancing at school. Right now, the principals are in touch with the custodians to start putting some stickers or some visual reminders on the ground that kind of reinforce what social distancing looks like. High traffic areas, entries, perhaps right outside of the primary kids' classrooms. We realize each level of kids will have a different need as far as understanding the new guidelines. In the classrooms, we are going to follow the guidelines and have about 12 to 14 students per cohorts. This will allow us to have about 6 feet of distance, which is the recommendation. When possible, we're going to encourage our teachers to bring the kids outside or to a large area so they can kind of spread out in fresh air. This will allow them at times to be able to take off their masks, which we'll talk about a little later, but basically maximizing the physical spaces at both schools. In parentheses, it talks about we are researching the advantages of placing partitions on student desk as well as in front of a teacher's desk. That is all information. We actually put the order in today. We're providing shields in front of each teacher's desk as well as partitions with the little guys, the primary school kids. That again, it's going to be a process teaching them what physical distancing means. Outside, the models that we're showing you will eliminate congestion times like lunch and recess, but still when we take breaks, the students will take breaks in cohorts. And at the middle school, where scheduling is a little bit more difficult, Kate has come up with a way to keep the kids in cohorts of 12 to 15 with one teacher using video for instruction to other classes. And then every 4 weeks, we can follow the guidance on social circles, which is you could go ahead and change the cohort, meaning the teacher would probably change the cohort so the kids would have the advantage of that subject area expert for another 4 weeks. Face coverings. This has unfortunately become very political and very divisive. The current county order is for kids 13 and up to wear them, but strongly recommended for kids 3 and up. The California Department of Public Health has widened that. Their guidelines are for any student 3 and up to wear them. We realize that, from all the research, that the students, for the most part, will be the safest ones on campus. But we also have to realize our staff and our teachers, are going to be very, very, very reluctant to want to come back unless they have, some safeguards in place, namely kids wearing face masks. So we are going to require students and staff to wear face coverings at all times, except for when 6 feet of physical distancing is possible. We're outside or in a classroom when, like seat work, when nobody's moving and the teacher's not planning to go to class or desk to desk, which I know is rare. And again, the district will provide all face coverings for staff and students. I mentioned that with the models that we're presenting tonight, we're going to offer the grab and go lunch, just like we did this summer, which worked really well. The kids in the AM cohort will grab their lunch on the way out. The kids in the PM cohort will come 10 minutes early, grab their lunch, eat while practicing social distancing with supervision. Cleaning and disinfecting, we're going to go ahead and follow the best practices. Our custodial crew has already been undergoing a lot of different trainings. We are putting up hand washing stations outside both schools for additional places to wash hands. We've actually purchased and are in the process of putting up additional disinfectant stations. I'm actually in the district office now looking at 2. They're very efficient. Put your hand underneath, automatically you get a little disinfectant. It works well. And I just want a big shout out. So later I'll explain the different model we're proposing, the AM and PM model. One of the biggest obstacles before being able to present it tonight was the amount of time and the staff needed to clean between cohorts. We've worked with one of our bargaining units, the classified group, and I can't thank them enough. We were able to mobilize what I call a disinfecting army to make sure that we have the amount of people necessary to disinfect both sites adequately between cohorts. We did this by working with their leadership to figure out which staff members could not work on Mondays and then distribute their hours to the other days of instruction to really maximize that cleaning. So again, big thank you to that group, which allows us to present the hybrid model tonight that we're going to share with you. We also need to make sure COVID-related protocols are in place. At each site, we'll have a point of contact, our health aide. If there's an outbreak, the way it works, if there's a COVID positive in the community, we'll be notified by the health department, and then a series of questions will follow. Contact tracing, how far is it spread? And based on that, the health department will make certain decisions. Do we close a class? Do we close a wing? Do we close a school? All that is in partnership with the health department. We will have designated isolation locations at both sites for kids that show symptoms so we can support them while their parents pick them up. We will develop hygiene routines that are taught and reinforced daily and post signage to reinforce this for all the kids, but especially the younger ones. And most people know that during this pandemic, social emotional health is at an all-time low, and we're aware of that. And we are working with our counseling provider, Harmony at Home, to address that. We're planning to have a counselor back full-time in the fall, and we will work with that person to perhaps customize some of the early lessons in class to COVID social emotional health. Also, we realized that in the spring, one of the things we heard from parents, there was some frustration. We're aware of that. Our teachers had to hit the ground running within like a day, going from full instruction to 100% online, literally, over a weekend. And they did an amazing job considering. We realized, though, that we were throwing a lot of different technology platforms at families. Our communication was, wasn't exactly structured. We're going to change that. We have an online learning subcommittee that is working in addition to the reopening committee to come up with best practices for online learning, including having something like, parent academies and student academies for technology prior to the beginning of the year. More information on that later, but parents out there, we absolutely understand that asking you to help out requires us to give you the tools to support your child at home. And now we're going to go ahead and transition into the actual learning models. There's two scenarios. Again, scenarios, this is highly fluid. What I'm presenting tonight may be inappropriate in a week. Who knows, we might be only online learning, or perhaps, hopefully, in some time we'll be back to normal. But as of now, the two models that we're presenting are based on the current guidelines and what we feel is the safest entry for the kids. We were down to two hybrids. Hybrid, for the people out there, is basically part in-person instruction, part online. There's good questions, valid questions from the community. Why can't we bring all the kids back at once? It's simply mathematically impossible to bring the kids back and practice social distancing in the classroom. Our classrooms, we have 30 kids in there with about a foot and a half space between them. The only way we could social distance is to cut that in half. We talked about the possibility of putting up some portable, locations. That's not allowed by the state architecture division. And so with the restrictions we have now, we are presenting two models. One, and again, bringing back kids full time is not possible now. And I understand that people want that. We all want that eventually. But what we're presenting tonight is a hybrid model and then an online learning model, 100% online learning model. Now we were down to two hybrids. One was an AM and PM cohort model, which means half the kids come in the morning, half the kids come after lunch. And the other model was a 2 days on, 2 days off model, meaning one cohort would come, for example, Monday and Tuesdays all day, and then the next cohort Thursdays and Fridays. So we vetted both of these models, and then we went to a while back, we actually shared that with the parents, and we surveyed the parents. At the time, the parents were more in favor of this model than the 2 day on, 2 day off. And the teachers at the elementary school were also in favor. So the next step, we we further vetted these models. And then last week, we presented a teacher survey to the entire staff. And the reason the font changed here is this is the exact language that was on the survey. And the AMPM model basically was only going to be proposed tonight if we could address the cleaning concerns between cohorts, which with the help of classified union, we can. Under this model, students would come Tuesday through Friday. There'd be AM cohort that would come from approximately 8:15 to 11:15. We'd have an hour and 15 minutes between cohorts to clean. And then like 12:30 to 3:30, the second cohort would come. Mondays would be reserved for teacher planning. This would be a remote learning day for everybody. And our teachers are being asked to do more than ever before, and we have to provide them time to pull it off. So Mondays would be a remote learning day for everybody. Students would be at home. All students would be at home working remotely. Teachers would be planning, collaborating, being available for office hours for students and parents. We thought having it on Monday is the best choice, so we could front load the week, get information out to the parents, use that extra day in the weekend to deep clean. And approximately 24 to 28 student to teacher contacts, but those would be in cohorts of 12 to 14, so only 12 kids at a time. The advantage with teachers would remain in their own classroom versus having to rotate. And this would eliminate, again, the high density times like lunch or recess. So when I surveyed the teachers below, we have about, 48 total teachers, and 34 responded. And the results were pretty telling. 82% favored the AMPM model, 17% favored the 2 days on, 2 days off. Now, there was a thought that perhaps these models were site specific. It wasn't the case. Overwhelmingly at the elementary school, the teachers favored this, but at the Buena Vista, in fact, it was split 5-6, 6 in favor of the AMPM. So it really did not become a site specific issue. This is just another visual of what that AM/PM hybrid would look like. On Monday is, again, a remote learning day. Students are at home working, teachers working remotely as well, and certain classified would be on the sites. The ones that did not need to be on the sites would be, again, their hours would be redistributed to Tuesday to Thursday to give us that disinfecting army, as I like to call it. One of the main advantages of this model is the bold parenthetical statement. We're going to have some students that online learning just doesn't work for them, whether There's special ed students that require more than 50% of specialized learning. If they're English learners that are at the beginning stages, or if from our spring experience, we realized some kids just, they fell through the cracks. This model will allow us to keep certain groups of kids there all day. Very few kids, but the strategically, identified ones that really, once they go home, we're not going to get much work for them. So this model also allows us to do that. The other model that we're going to offer, because again, we want to provide scenario choices for parents, and we need to have, in case that we need to flip to an online only model, is again, option 2. We surveyed our parents last week, and about 28% at this point would opt for this model. And again, that 28% again is very reflective of society. Some people are ready to go back full time, others not at all. So 28% of our families prefer to have their kids at home working remotely 100% of the time. So we will provide a model for that. We will ask parents to commit to this model through Thanksgiving break. We can't plan or staff with a scenario where people go back and forth, continually. We will make exceptions based on really, extreme situations, but we are asking for a firm commitment through Thanksgiving break. Students will be working remotely at home for the entire time. Unlike the spring model was the best we could do on about 48-hour notice. We've had months since then. We've actually formed a remote learning subcommittee that is working on best practices on how much time should students spend on it, what type of instruction should be synchronous or asynchronous. We're going to be taking attendance. Kids will be getting formal grades, whether it's a letter grade at the middle school or a rubric grade at the elementary school. They will be held accountable, unlike the hold harmless model in the spring. And depending on how many families opt for this scenario, we will staff accordingly. We realize that there's a lot more to school than just the academics, and we're going to try to provide it to the best of our abilities in a virtual way. We are going to provide music virtually. We've been talking to our music teacher. She's highly connected in the music network in Monterey. She's been working on many virtual lessons. After school sports and classes, we are going to postpone until it's deemed safe to resume. That will be based on a county health order. And most of our committees and meetings will be held virtually until it's safe to resume in person. And that is the presentation. So at this point, questions and comments?
Yeah, so what I'm going to do, I want to give individual board members a chance to ask questions. I had put a message out for others if there were, I haven't gotten any responses. I don't know if it's because they can't respond. And Travis, if you're able to respond, can you let me know if it's just that nobody can respond and nobody had questions? But let's just go. I'm going to go through the list and give board members a chance to respond. I know it's not usually how we do it, but it's easier because we're on Zoom for most of us. Chris, do you have any questions?
No, I've been on the committee, so Eric and I have talked through everything that I can think of. Right?
You were the first on my list. Jennifer?
Are we talking? I'm sorry, I have a question about my question. Are we talking detailed questions here or just in general?
You have questions? Any question you want to ask to Eric regarding the presentation he just gave?
Detailed questions
are great.
Yeah, they help. I may not have the answer, but going forward, it will be the detailed questions that allow us to build the meat of this model. So fire, I can't answer. I'll be honest about that.
Thanks, Eric. My first question is about the temperature check in the morning. You said.
Yes.
Yeah. So and you said multiple check sites, and so is staff doing the temperature checks, or who's doing the temperature checks is my question.
We're still discussing that. We're proposing at the elementary school. We're going to talk to both unions about that. We're proposing at the elementary school, and Teresa, if I misstate this, you could jump in, to have the teachers themselves do it. So it's 12 per teacher. And also we thought it would give teachers a reassurance that the kid, yes, has in fact had a health check as they enter. Kate is still, I think, in the process of identifying staff to do at the middle school. But again, that's one of those detailed obstacles we're going to need to make sure we cover.
And then adult would be present with the child until the temperature check happens, correct?
Yes, I believe so. So they would enter, I think, at the elementary school. Teresa,
No.
Teresa, do you mind covering the elementary school information?
So, of course, again, I want to state we're in planning stages, but we're looking at drop-off areas per teacher, per grade level. So, like the easy one that you would know is like the Kindergate for the kinder kids, right? So those children would be dropped off because adults, we're not going to have people come on campus. And they would get into their line, their socially distanced line with their teacher, and then their teacher will take their temperature and then take them to class.
Okay.
And that'll happen for every grade level so that they all go together.
So if they had a temperature, then they would be taken to the unit that we have for the kids whose temperatures are high or sick.
They would go to our health aid, and then we go from there. And
okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
A follow-up on that, there was a question actually in the board room itself about temp checks before the bus. Now, we're actually looking deeper into the guidelines. At first, we thought it would make sense for our bus drivers to take the temperature. That's going against the recommended practice, though. So as of now, we are researching a better way to do a health check before kids get on the bus. So more information to come there.
Okay, thank you. That's it for me for now.
Okay.
Okay, Steve?
I have a few, so I'll try not to ask any that have already been asked. So I know that, AB 77 and the parallel bill, SB 98, says offer in person, but only if you can. Right? Only if you can. If the governor or the health officer in the county shuts you down, they shut you down. Or if you don't have the ability, and some of my questions are going to be around that. If you don't have the ability to do it, you can't do it. All right. And you're not protected with liability if you do bring folks on board, students and or adults, and you weren't able to pull off being safe. And so I just want to have that kind of be my precursor to any questions I have. So the training that needs to happen for classified and certificated, whatever it is, and some of it is protocols that are more like a training thing, how to onboard students each day, how to egress students each day, and all the things that are around that. But also, if we're going to, and I'll get into this later in my questioning, count instructional minutes by assignments outside of class, which is possible through the trailer bill, is that going to result in some sort of training or professional development? Meaning, do we need to train teachers to know how to account for, and it might be more of a training, because it can be audited, right, for your apportionment later, after the fact. Are those assignments going to be archived? Is there going to be a log? Maybe it's not a PD thing, but maybe it's more of a training thing or a protocol thing or a staff meeting thing. So I think that needs to happen on the front end before we bring students on board for instruction. So I guess it's a statement, but also a question at the same time.
Yeah, so tomorrow, that subcommittee's meeting, Travis is actually chairing that subcommittee. And Travis, I believe that's one of the areas that you're going to be looking into deeply. The how do we document online time? Is that right? I see a T, but I believe that's one of their main agenda items, is basically that documenting that online time.
Yes, that's on the agenda.
Okay, thank you, Tammy.
If I could just jump in, Steve, it's not just online time, but it's assignment value. So they don't have to be screen time online, but it could be create, a database. So we
That's what I should have said, but yeah, I understand that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Some of my questions are simple yes or no. Transportation. Are we able to pull off? Let me back up. Currently, under normal circumstances, about a third of our students ride the bus.
I believe, Veronica, do you have a number? I believe that third is about right, about 200 to 300. Does that sound right? I believe so.
Do we have any indication that that number is going to change once we open up for the school year?
So we surveyed and we got that pie chart said about, was that 28%, but that number of 554 total surveys could be a combination. It could have been people riding the bus or who want it full online. So right now we're in the process. Travis actually disaggregated the data and provided those names to the site principals and to the technology coordinator. So we're actually going like house by house, trying to figure out who's going to ride, who's not, to build those routes.
All right. Are we able to provide transportation for those that we anticipate wanting it or needing it with the current equipment, staff, and funding?
A qualified, I believe so. We, based on the 25% capacity, having them just coming in the morning and dropping them off, and then coming in the PM and dropping them off, we think we can make it work.
Will the routes, if we're going to try to mitigate contact between students at bus stops, let's say, by stopping at driveways, front doors, etc. Will the routes take longer, and will we need to pay our bus drivers more for working longer, for example? Is that going to be a factor that we need to add in to planning this out, cost-wise?
Veronica, you might want to help me with this. I believe that we feel, again, this is qualified. We're building that detail now, but we think that with our current staff and with our current amount of buses, we could pull it off. We haven't. In fact, we actually have. We factored in some of our bus drivers helping with some of the disinfecting because we thought they'd have some time in between cohorts. Okay. So we're not anticipating adding hours there. Veronica, is that?
Yeah, actually, just going back to the survey, and that's the baseline. I know it's going to change, but if 28% of 600 said they would still ride, and we break that in half of them come in the morning, half of them come in the afternoon, then we divide that by the number of buses, which we currently have 5 licensed drivers. We're looking at about 17 kids per bus, which is just a skosh more than guidance, but we know that we can put siblings together. So based on that, we just need confirmation from the parents who they are, and then the route designs will start. And yes, it's possible that they may work over their contract. We have 4 bus drivers who are 4-hour drivers and 1 who's 8-hour. So until we get names and addresses, but we recognize that all has to be under consideration.
Sure. We're going to have 2 cohorts for both campuses. We're going to be able to, and I'll ask what the word clean means later in my questioning when I get to that slide, where we're going to be able to turn the buses around so that they are safe for the next cohort to onboard.
So that's why we're focusing on home, the school only. They'll pick up the AM cohort in the morning. They'll arrive at 5 at 8:10 at Spreckels School, and then they won't leave at 7-ish to pick up the second cohort. So they'll have about a 2-hour time period to do disinfecting in the buses.
Okay, so for the morning cohort, they won't have a bus ride home, correct?
Neither will
the PM. So are we going to be able to? I'm hearkening back to the days when my son was in preschool before public school, and there was an exorbitant late fee if you were there late. At time for me, for example, over in Toro School, and I never had to pay it because I'm never late for anything. I can't speak for. Never mind. I won't say anymore.
What happens?
I'm going to talk about myself.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that being said, are we going to be able to watch safely, social distancing, the stragglers that for parents or guardians or ride shares, I guess. That aren't timely in egressing students off campus, whether it's morning or afternoon session.
We're gonna factor that the straggler variable into it. With goal that through our messaging in partnership with the parents to reduce that down to a few. But yeah, we realize just in the past when we had Wednesday early release, often we had the similar situation, and so we'll factor that into it, the planning, hopefully with the goal of it getting better and not worse.
Yeah, and so I have seen scenarios where temperature checks are taken prior to getting on buses.
Yeah.
Where are we getting guidance from on whether or not to do that?
Veronica, is it in the CDE guidance?
It's coming from some conversations with the CHP in terms of the first kid. It would be easy because the driver opens the door and takes the temperature. The kid goes to the back of the bus and sits down. But as the routes unfold, now you've got a distracted driver having to stop a bus, get out of a seat. There's that whole process of it. I think there are some conversations where they're putting adult riders.
Okay. Sorry, guys. Steve's got a lot of questions, so we're going to try to stay focused on the answers. If we don't have the answer, I think we'll just say I don't know, and we'll get the information for you.
Okay. I
appreciate you guys are trying to be thorough, but I'm looking at his Post-its, and he's got a lot of valid questions. This is actionable today, but I want to tell staff if you can be directed in your answers. That'd be great.
Yes or no is great.
Okay.
He said yes or no, so.
Well, there's a lot of qualified yeses and nos.
Here's a good one. Here's a good easy one. Are we able to maintain the 6 feet social distancing requirement in all classrooms that we are going to use? I realize we may not use all classrooms.
I believe the answer is yes. Our custodians did a little bit of measurement, and we can get 12 in, I think, all classrooms.
But I know we're going to have 14 in some cases, right?
Veronica, do you know? So, yes, we think. I'm just shortening it down. Yes, we think, and we will double check.
Okay. So regarding the 75-minute turnaround between morning and afternoon, there's technical terms that I've been educated on recently. One I've known for a long time, and that's cleaning under the CASBO model. That's how you staff your custodians.
Okay.
Then there's disinfecting, and then there's sanitizing. So during the 75-minute turnaround from morning to afternoon, once we get CSEA to agree to whatever folks are going to what needs to be done, what is it they're going to do? Are they going to clean, disinfect, or sanitize?
I think the guidelines use the word disinfect. Is that correct?
Disinfect the classrooms, sanitize the restrooms.
Okay, and
she knows the difference.
And so we will never need to sanitize classrooms, or we'll sanitize classrooms on a case-by-case basis?
Yes.
Like we do now, child vomits, you sanitize. Yeah.
If someone's positive, let's say in a classroom, then we'll sanitize.
Right. Right.
Don't roll your eyes. These are questions.
These are good questions.
If I get the report at midday and I have to make a decision tonight, I'm going to ask my question.
Keep them coming.
Steve, these are great questions. I think they're important to ask. I just was giving direction to staff because I know people like to give thorough answers, and I'm looking at a stack, and I also know.
I heard it. It was Eric shortening it down. I got you.
Yeah. That wasn't you, Steve. That was the staff.
That was me. I heard it.
Okay.
I heard my name.
So do we know yet if any certificated staff is unable to come to work because they're in a risk group, or in their bubble away from work, they're in a risk group?
We're in the process of getting that information. We have identified certain staff. Some have volunteered that information, and we are trying to have them go to HR for interactive process.
Okay. Can it be safe to assume that those that are in a at-risk group or their bubble is at risk, they will become our distance learning only folks?
I think that would be the goal of the principals, but a lot of it has to do with subject matter too. So it's
because you have single subject and multiple subjects.
I guess the short answer, we're going to try to accommodate those folk the best we can, whether it's a bigger classroom, outdoor classroom, or distance learning, or a combination of.
All right. And so, I already had that one answered. Okay. So we're voting on this reopening plan tonight.
Scenarios.
But we're not voting on the exact schedules per se.
I'm asking you guys to give us action in the sense that give us direction to build detail into these scenarios to come back with a formal plan July 28th.
To vote on that too?
Those would be the plans that we need to approve. So again, a local LEA has to approve a plan. Right now, I'm looking just for action for direction to build a plan. Right now, we have a skeleton.
Yes,
We need, okay, got it.
If we're doing the hybrid, forget distance, but if we're doing that for the moment, if we're doing the hybrid and we're meeting the minimum minute requirements, 180 for kinders, 230 for grades 1 through 3, and 240 for everyone else.
Right.
Between the hybrid and the value of assignments outside, will we make those minutes? Are we planning on making those minutes?
In excess, yes.
In excess is fine.
Right.
Next question. AM cohort versus PM cohort. Will there be a fair? I realize there may be exceptions, siblings, etc., staff maybe, staff with their own kids in school. But will there be a fair and equal, not equitable, but equal process to decide who's going to be the morning cohort and who's going to be the afternoon cohort? Because I don't want a huge imbalance between the two where we're not able to make the social distancing requirements in one cohort or the other.
That is the plan. I know that the principals have been very, very vocal about making sure that the two cohorts are as equally balanced as possible. But yeah, the variables of transportation, siblings, special ed students.
You don't want 75% of the parents choosing morning.
We're not planning to offer. We're going to ask them for their choice of scenarios, for a better word, but not necessarily AM or PM. I know that some would like that option. We don't think we could plan with that information.
I think it needs to be a lot, and with certain exceptions built in that makes sense.
Yeah.
Siblings being
right. No, we realize there's.
I think it should be lottery.
I think it's going to be blind, but
I think once we give the vote to tell them how that we approve this plan, then they're going to be able to flush out. So while a lot of your questions are great, they're kind of too early because but you need them to know where they're going.
Right.
Right.
Because that's the nuts and bolts.
Well, that's a question. I guess that provides
fair treatment of AMP and cohorts.
I like the question. I'm just helping Eric out because he might not be the answer. But I like the way you directed the question. It's a good idea.
Absolutely.
Okay. We had a darn good sample of parents. Well over half took. That's a good sample. Mm-hmm. As I took stats once or twice.
Yeah.
So can we anticipate about how many of our pupils will be doing distance learning yet?
The first pass was about 1/4 of them, and I think Kate at the middle school. Yeah, I think Kate at the middle school it came out to be like almost 25 per 6th grade and 8th grade, a little fewer 7th. Just like everything else, they don't come in perfect.
25%.
Next.
You had it in the first sentence.
Right.
I had the answer.
Right. Okay. So
you had me at 25%.
All right. Although limited, and I mean limited liability is coming, hopefully in AB 1384 through the legislature. SB 98, 470, AB 77 do not shield us from liability altogether. So 2 questions. Has legal counsel looked at what we're doing so far?
Not yet.
But they will before we come back again.
If the board wants this vetted through legal counsel, we will. My understanding, we'll never be able to avoid 100% of the liability.
People slip and fall.
From what I've heard from is that if we build a program based on the guidelines, then we should be as covered as we can be.
All right. And so we don't need to worry about our insurance policy. We're good there then.
We can look into that, Veronica, the insurance.
Good direction. I think it's good. I think the way you asked the question, I think it's good direction to double check.
Okay.
Never hurts to double check.
Liability, yes, for sure.
One thing's for sure, we need to make sure we meet the safety standards when we come back again to look at the final.
It will be a detailed plan.
All right. And the plan needs to easily flow between distance learning and the hybrid, because we may be shut down more than once throughout the course of the school year.
Right.
Once we get to the winter season, you know, if we think about flu season.
Absolutely.
I don't know if that's a good analogy, but maybe it is. We need to be able, going distance, you know, on 24 hours notice, that's kind of, I don't want to say a no-brainer, but
It's easier than the opposite, right?
than going the other way. And
Right.
so we need to make sure whatever we do, we're able to flip
Yeah,
back to
right.
coming back on board.
And I think that both principals are building their site models, including that flexibility, right?
Okay, that's all I have for now. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Yeah, very good questions.
I appreciate it. It was very good, very informative. So thank you. Thank you for going to it. Michael?
Yeah, no, Steve covered a lot of the questions. Thank you for that. I just have sort of concerns about pickup and drop off, especially if there's all these big crowds of people picking up, since there'll be no buses taking kids home. And so in the final plan, I don't, you know, parents are used to walking onto campus. And it's not only walking onto campus, but it's also walking around campus. And so I hope we have a system that everyone must follow, where maybe parents don't get out of their cars or something. I don't know, but
that's the plan, Michael. That's the plan. We got to get it into perfection. That's the main plan. Every grade level is a different exit, different area to park and drop off.
okay, thank you.
On it.
Yeah, and then the liability stuff too was, but thank you.
It's really good. You know, everything is good for culture and community that we have, and it's hard to shift. But for now, it's better to have the drop off instead of coming in and out.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you. No, thank you, Steve. I think you guys covered all the questions I had and ones that I didn't even think of. So thank you very No, but they're important. So thank you very much.
Hey, Peter?
Yes. I was about to go back and see if you had any more questions, because it's been a while.
Yeah. No. I don't have questions about the process. I have questions about the motion. I think that it's probably appropriate for us to modify this motion so that we're not approving a reopening plan, but we're approving this planning process that will result in a plan.
That was what I was going to suggest. So thank you for getting ahead of me.
And that's what we're looking for.
Yeah. So
Was it his motion?
I think it was you were the first on the motion, weren't you, Chris?
Yeah.
So go ahead and withdraw.
Why don't you withdraw that? Why don't you withdraw that motion?
Okay, I withdraw that motion.
Do we have a second withdraw? Okay,
No,
great.
no.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve by roll call vote a preliminary approval of a reopening plan to be vetted out more thoroughly and presented at a later date.
July 28th.
July 28th.
That's next one.
Sounds good. Second. I'll second.
So moved.
That sound like do you want to first that one?
Yeah, I'll move that.
Okay, and I got a second with Steve. I'm seeing some nods around the table, virtual table. So we're going to vote on that now by roll call vote. And hopefully, Monica, you wrote that down, because I just kind of did that one off the top. Chris?
Wait, we're not voting on the motion because don't we have to go to a public comment first?
No, the public comment is actually regarding the CSEA
Oh, okay.
proposal. It was a little bit off in the numbering, but that's how I read it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I vote aye.
Okay. Good question. I had some trouble with that one earlier.
Yeah.
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. Thank you all very much. And thank you for staff. Look, the one thing that became clear when Steve was asking his questions, you guys have really fleshed this out and given this out a lot, even for a preliminary. There's a lot of moving pieces.
Yeah.
There's a lot that can break down. I can guarantee everyone here that this is going to not go well initially, that there's going to be mistakes.
No.
So I want to encourage all of us to roll with them, to bear with them, and to work together to improve them, because there's going to invariably be something stupid that we did not realize.
Absolutely.
And it's going to be critical, and we're going to have to figure it out on the fly.
And we absolutely welcome all those, what you consider trivial, detailed question. Keep them coming, email them. Community, the same thing. We don't want to miss anything in this process.
So, and thank you. And so thank you very much to everybody. So now I need a motion to adjourn to public hearing regarding negotiations with CSEA. So I need a first. Chris, where were you?
I think he dropped off.
He took off.
Lost you. Okay.
I'll move it. I'll move it.
Okay, so Steve is first. I need a second.
Second.
Okay. I'll come back to Chris while he waits. We don't really need discussion about this. Jennifer?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. And Chris is not back, so we're going to go without him. The motion carries 4-0-1.
And that's the public hearing.
And we're now in public hearing. And I'm just going to read this. The Spreckels Union School District will provide time for public comment on the Spreckels Union School District and the CSEA initial collective bargaining proposals for the 2021 school year. Do I have any public comment? Hearing none, I need a motion to adjourn from public comment.
I'll move it.
Second.
Jennifer?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well, and I still don't see Chris, so the motion
I'm
carries.
watching for him.
Yeah, 4-0-1. I don't think you'll mind everyone without him. I now need a motion to approve the consideration and public notice of district's initial proposal to CSEA collective bargaining agreement.
Move.
Second.
Discussion?
Standard stuff.
Yeah, it's standard stuff. Jennifer?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. Motion carries 4-0-1. Curriculum instruction, nothing. Personnel, nothing. Committee updates.
Already gave it with reopening.
Yeah, kind of covered a lot
Yeah.
there. Board elections.
Come on, guys.
It's that time of year.
Veronica, do you want to share?
Yeah, this is just a reminder only, information only, that the filing window is open next week. And so this document in the board packet is just the calendar of events. So anyone who's interested needs to get their filing paper. I believe it opens on the 13th of July.
I can give you both a ride. I'll pick
You have to make an appointment.
Oh, okay.
I can do that.
Yeah.
You have to make an appointment. Oh, shucks, so darn. That's the kicker for me. That's the deal breaker. If I could just walk in, it would be easy. Sorry, Chris, we went without you for a little bit. So I need a motion now to approve the final read of the recovery for property lost or damaged.
So moved.
Okay. Second.
Thank you. Discussion, comments? No. Chris?
Aye.
Jennifer?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. And just in case if I get out of order and I start calling the roll before allowing discussion, please feel free to discuss when I call your name and say, oops, you screwed it up. I know. Consent items. Does anybody want to pull anything out from consent items? Hearing none, I need them.
I just heard that this high school district may have rated a teacher from here
Yeah.
teaching at my school.
We haven't got it yet.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's not official?
Aware.
Next
yes.
meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So nothing yet?
True story.
No, okay.
Poaching.
No poaching?
Not until next time officially.
I need a motion to approve the consent items.
So moved.
Second.
Chris?
Aye.
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. Motion carries 5-0-0. Future agenda items. The July 28th, I am on vacation. So you guys are going to be doing this one without me?
We could arrange for you to do this if you really want to.
My wife has told me I am on vacation.
Got it.
If we have quorum issues, I can be there. I'm pretty comfortable. I can talk to you before.
You've had perfect attendance, man. Don't worry about it. Enjoy your vacation.
I have been told that I need to vacate.
I'm good.
Okay.
Steve's got it covered.
Steve, you got it covered.
Yeah.
Of all the ones, it's the hot one.
That's might just be.
It looks like we're gonna have a pretty full
Robust agenda.
I
Yeah.
think it's a robust agenda for our second one. So thank you everybody for making it, but yeah.
Can any of that be kicked to the next meeting or not?
Well,
Well, that's robust too.
They're all kind of tied together.
Never mind.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get out.
Okay.
And it might go quick. I mean, it depends.
All those things are connected.
We're
to
pretty
the
far
plan.
down. Yeah, it's once you get the ball rolling. I think it's the most important thing is figuring out the plan for the school reopening and how we're going to educate our kids. And who knows what's going to be the next 2 weeks in the show anyway.
3 weeks will be crazy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. Okay, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Chris,
Aye.
Jennifer,
Aye.
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. Thank you all very much for your attendance tonight.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Stay safe.